It's like trying to win a car race.
Should be a good one.
And as you're driving, saying, hey, make it run better.
You could have a posse of waifus.
Starting off kind of strangely.
Slaying the land.
Welcome to the show.
This is insanity.
Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This info is pretty shocking.
Somebody's got to give an answer to
This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and analysis of games in the gaming industry, coming at you live on YouTube and Twitch and archived almost anywhere you can find podcasts. I'm curious if anyone out there regularly listens to the audio podcast. We'd love to hear from you, like if you listen to it on SoundCloud, iTunes, Spotify, anywhere like that. If you listen regularly, we've been putting the podcast up regularly, like as soon as possible after the show ends, we get the audio version up. So let us know if you listen on one of those platforms. Very curious. Anyway, this is Ash here with you, along with Subsidian and Moontag as always.
Yes, hello. It's lovely to see so many of you joining us for the live stream. Please say hi, send us your questions and comments too. We'll read and respond to as many as we can. And as we get going, don't forget to smash that like button. It likes it rough. And it tells us in YouTube that you appreciate this content. And of course, come join the Discord.
The Discord? What is that?
Oh my gosh, it is like just the best. You could go there and hang out with other people and check out games and talk about all kinds of stuff. Like, oh my goodness, yesterday I definitely went down a rabbit hole of miniature food stuff. And like I even found teeny tiny like fast food meal and like teeny tiny ramen and teeny tiny burritos for teeny tiny hamsters, and that further went into like teeny tiny animal videos, so like tiny kitchen videos for animals. Oh my gosh, oh, it was so fun. Yes, so join us if you like going down rabbit holes.
Apparently if you like teeny tiny food, there's a spot for you on the Discord server, but there's also all kinds of other rooms to talk about all the things we love to chat about, and it's great to see a bunch of our regulars here in the live chat today. Atomic, Stu, Ali, Kisuke, Notional. Kisuke says, I've seen teeny tiny cakes.
Oh, they're so cute.
But is the cake a little white lie? Haha.
These cakes are not lies.
I make intelligent joke. Okay, anyway. And, so that's, that about covers that. So, yes. Welcome to the show today. Lots to talk about. So, Outriders. So, last podcast, we did a sort of a featurette on why Outriders was a recipe for success, but then what the hell happened? I mean, it was, yes, people were having trouble logging on and playing, and I was assuming that these are issues that were going to be cleared up, but for the most part, everyone who actually was getting into the game and enjoying the game, or everyone who was able to get in and play the game, was enjoying the game. But some other things have happened. There was an update that did a bunch of nerfs. I'm not familiar with the details on this, so Saib, go ahead, take it away.
So, well, they pulled a Wolcen, which the Wolcen had pulled a Wild Star. I'm sure there's lots of other games between then and there. But it's the concept of players, finding a meta within the game, finding a cool thing within the game that becomes mainstream, that becomes the norm. Everybody starts to enjoy doing it that way, starts to really, really dig the cool concepts, the ideas, the having fun doing the thing. Whatever that may be. And then the developers believing or thinking on some level that, that is just way too overpowered. Maybe they're panicking because they had set up a gameplay system in which, completing X and Y, XYZ would take them like 4 months because they hadn't prepared the new round of content. And all they had brought to the game was X, Y, and Z. So this hits a bunch of things. Key among them, the stupidity of developers who don't understand how to brace their content. So they work on content, they put it in the game, they release the game, and then in some cases they find that the players, they were expecting the players to figure this stuff out in over the course of a month, and they figured it out in the course of 5 hours. And you don't have anybody to blame except for yourself, and B, you like, don't overreact. Whatever you do, don't overreact by nerfing things willy-nilly. Because by nerfing stuff and by smashing things down, you ruin the experience that other people are having.
Don't they have some metrics from the demo that they put out that would have prepared them for this? This is
I don't think so. And like, basically it was very much a Wolcen in that they panicked because players just had too much power. So they nerfed it really hard. In some cases it wasn't a massive nerf to a particular style or particular gameplay. It was a nerf. It was a massive nerf. A few other builds got nerfed like into the ground, where it's like, okay, all of the work that you've done, you have to abandon it all. You have to abandon that set, and you have to try to get your power back by working with a brand new set. So if you were the type of person who only carries one set on them, your entire character just got ruined, and you're going to have to start grinding at really low content just to get options for gear to open up a new way of doing stuff, because there's no way you can compete in like the upper tier content as is.
Ouch.
So again, this is what Wolcen did. They had the bleeding edge build. Everybody was using it. It was very popular. It was very big. Everybody was having a blast. They nerfed it so hard that it basically was ruined, and everybody who had been working on that build basically had to essentially start over from scratch, and start to get new legendaries and new epics, and start to redesign their character. Now, for a lot of people, they would just rather quit the game than have to re-roll their character, because like and it also goes to show the mind state, the state of mind of the developers, in that they're not willing to address other big things. Like there's some character classes in the game right now that are absurdly useless, that have absurdly useless specs, and their priority was not to fix the classes and the characters that were just not having an ability to do anything. Their priority was to ruin the top end builds, which in some cases were carrying those people.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the biggest, dumbest thing you could do, is throw in your community, your concept, and be like, we just don't care. We just don't care. Because that comes across really, really loudly to the community that you're trying to foster.
No, absolutely.
Like
and for it to go, especially, I mean, first, for one thing, they're having trouble keeping people online actually playing this game.
Yeah.
And yet they're working on rebalancing patches. I mean, that seems like...
Well, again, I raised this point, and so did several other people, that the devs went out of their way to clearly state that it was a separate balance team. Hello? I got a couple of those Neanderthalic brilliant people, and my reply to that is, you fool, that is what you're supposed to do. Like, you're not supposed to have say you've got a team of 100 people and 10 people are on your balance team. When the servers are as bad as they are, when there is as many problems as there are, you need all hands on deck fixing those problems. So all of those problems that they were having, and this stems from not just the server issue. It was the server issues. It was a lot of bugs, a lot of bug squashing that they needed to do, and then they also had a lot of people's inventories being disappeared, and they couldn't. They didn't have the manpower to fix that right away. And my immediate question is, you had people working on a balance fix. Why weren't those people on restoring accounts? Because that's not a hard thing to do. You can teach somebody how to restore accounts as long as you've done it as long as you've created a tool for it. You can teach pretty much anybody how to restore an account. And at the very least, these people could have been, fixing bugs, like going through, finding them, reporting them, getting, just all they had to do was literally sit in Discord or on Twitter, checking issues and going in to fix those things. But no, they weren't doing that. What they were doing was spending an enormous amount of time rebalancing all of the most played classes and the most played stuff. And again, not balancing the players who are begging and screaming for anything to be tweaked, any improvement. Overall, they're doing less than a quarter damage that everybody else on their team. They're having just really, really hard survivability things. And then there's whole builds that are just pointless right now. Whole abilities in trees that just aren't being utilized whatsoever.
And nobody was complaining about this stuff. Like, nobody was saying...
everybody... No, that was the thing. Everybody was complaining about it. And again, you had this in Wolcen. You had this before in multiple games. This is a very common problem where the devs are like, oh, we got to fix this. Oh, we got to fix that. Oh, we don't want people to be strong here. It's like, well, there's whole classes that need help before you start doing, oh, no. We don't care about them. What we care about is our content not being destroyed so quickly.
So they fixed things that nobody was complaining about, and they ignored things that people were complaining about. Is that what I'm getting from this?
Basically, yeah. Okay. And that's why I said they pulled a Wolcen. They pulled another game. WildStar did this back in the day. They had massively overtuned their content, making it very, very difficult. And there were a lot of classes and specs that were struggling. What they did was they ended up nerfing a lot of those things even more. And their answer or their reply to this was, the game's supposed to be hard. It's like,
okay, but if you put out a game, we're talking about a game that was released. This was not early access, right? I'm not
exactly.
I'm not confused about that. This game was released, and it was, and people were enjoying it when it worked. Mm-hmm. And
which was still, here's the kicker. All of these fixes, they put in the crushing of the crushing and the destruction of the specs before they actually implemented the server fixes.
Yeah.
So and again,
like
this
mixed up priorities. Because if your game is not working, then that should be priority number one there. Few comments I want to read from our live chat, because we have a fair number of community members who are into this game, and there's some interesting opinions. So Kisuke actually says that he is now enjoying the game and that some of the nerfs feel good. Interesting. Also says the builds that got really overpowered don't show up until later in the game than the demo. So that explains why there wasn't any anticipation from the demo. But I still feel like that should have given them some indication of how fast people would blast through the content. But perhaps, again, if there's just...
Well, and again, this is an incredibly new mistake when it comes to developers. And I'm surprised that this studio made this mistake. This is a horrendous mistake. And it really boils down to the core concept of how you design content and how you build out your release data. So there are a lot of studios that they work on a bunch of content and then they put that content out at launch. We're not talking about DLCs, because I hate this practice when it comes to DLCs. They put out the game and then 2 weeks later they have a DLC ready, that expands on a bunch of stuff that clearly was meant to be in the base game. It's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is when a developer puts out needs to put out content to stagger it so that they don't end up burning through all of their content before before they have a chance to like make more, right? And so this is a prevalent problem in online games and stuff like that, and really has a bad habit of really tearing stuff up when it comes to the online game community. The thing that, because again, it's like you could spend a year working on content that people will finish in 20 minutes, right? Like, and that's a problem. That's a problem for every studio that does an quote unquote online game. And I feel for them. I really do. Because you're wanting to create good content, and then you get sidelined by the fact that the players are able to figure something out so quickly. And this happens in a bunch of stuff. This happens in ARGs a lot as well. You're expecting you're expecting your community to figure something out over the course of a month, and it takes them an hour and 15 minutes, right? Or they are able to find the answer to one of the questions that basically skips a whole bunch of the other steps that you had envisioned, which, I mean, that sucks a lot.
Or those just things they don't anticipate. But that's the thing with in this age of online gaming and the internet in general, you have the combined power of millions of nerds working to figure stuff out.
Exactly.
And that's
right.
And many of them, especially if they're of like you, Saib, the highly analytical and basically computer brain, that they're going to figure that stuff out. Mm-hmm. Atomic Stew says, so I'm going to be at a disadvantage starting Outriders now? No, I don't believe so. They've compressed everything downward, if I understand correctly.
Well, they've tried to, but again, these games, like, it doesn't take long for somebody to find out new ways to do stuff. And the whole point of this, and this is why I say this is a new mistake, you should never nerf down in these types of games. It's a PvE game, meaning there's no PvP, which means that you can't like dominate you can't camp somebody for 20 minutes because they're using the wrong spec and you are. That's not fun. We're not talking about PvP. We're talking about PvE. In a PvE world, you should never balance down. Unless it's like extreme, you should never balance down. You should never nerf an option. Instead, what they should have done is they should have gone in, buffed every other stuff so that the whole of the power feeling, the feeling of power, the feeling of of awesomeness, that stuff is all brought to more people. Because I can tell you, having done, I was doing sort of one of the builds. It wasn't nerfed so much, and I was still able to carry. I'm still able to complete a gold 15. It's hard, but it is definitely they definitely nerfed it on some level. But
right.
They didn't stop me from being as powerful as I was before. I'm still able to carry people through other through 13s and 14s with ease. And last night we were starting to get to the point where we actually completed a gold on 15 as a group. Of 3, which is fairly difficult because everybody's hit points get stacked up and there's more mobs and all this kind of stuff. So that being said, they didn't really stop me from experiencing that, but there's a lot of other builds that were being underutilized, underplayed, and frankly needed to be more people needed to do that. More people needed that kind of a buff to fix that kind of stuff so that they didn't feel helpless, so that they didn't feel useless. There's really only like one build for Technomancers, Tricksters right now. So for the Trickster, there's really only like one build to be like super competitive. And if you're not doing that build, then you're just slowing everybody else down on your team. And it's like, that's not good. When you have that scenario happening,
that's a case where some rebalancing was necessary.
Yes, and instead of rebalancing that and fixing that and finding an option for the community to have that. Another big thing that everybody agrees on is the tanks are underpowered. They're significantly underpowered.
Mm-hmm.
They're underpowered, and in most case scenarios, they take more damage than classes that are not tanks. And so there's a clear need for the tank class to be buffed considerably. But again, before even glancing at those issues, they went and they nerfed the thing that was carrying people through. But here's the dumb thing. In attempting to nerf those superpower builds, they nerfed the tank build even more.
Oh, no.
Because when they went to go nerf the one of the procs, they accidentally ended up nerfing it for the tank spec, and the tank spec guys went from barely being able to clear a 13 or a 14 on gold. They went from that as an average to barely being able to complete a 12. So now it's just backwards. Like, yes. It's just the stupidity of everything, and you're just sitting there, you're screaming at them, why are you doing this? Like, why is this your priority? And I honestly can't tell you why, or if they have one, or what's going on, because it's just like you're sitting there just shaking your head going, what is wrong with you people?
And the game has been out for how long now?
It dropped early access about a little over a week ago, and up until yesterday they were still having massive server problems, massive lag. We still can't play
in a week. Sorry,
we still can't play with people that we want to play with. We still can't do content that we want to do because we can't play with people right now.
Yeah, that sucks. But in a week, they figured out people were getting too strong too fast, if I understand properly, and so they nerfed that. All this within a week after launch. That's really fast. That's really fast. But also, mine just blanked there. I'm just baffled by this whole situation.
And again, like I've said this before, they pulled a Wolcen. Wolcen came out with their game. They nerfed something so hard they refused to backtrack. They said, no, we can't allow you to have this much fun. We can't allow you to do this. If we allow you to do this, then all of our content's going to have to be redesigned. We're going to have to create new stuff. Yeah, that's on you, buddy. It's also on you for having been stupid enough to try to put all of your content for the next 3 months out at launch without having any backup, any backup at all.
Well,
again, we don't want them to put out a game and then 2 weeks later send out a paid DLC. But having a DLC ready that you can tune up or tune down in respect to what the players are doing, that's basic 101 game development. Don't put all... I don't know. I don't know. Has anybody heard this term before? If I were an egg farmer and I had to walk the eggs from one place to another, and it was a little bumpy, and if the basket fell over, let's say I'm putting these egg things into a basket of some kind, but the basket has a tendency of imploding, and so it's not a common chance. It's like a 1 in 10 chance. The basket will implode, and so if I put all my eggs into this one imploding basket, and I'm on my way to sell the eggs, and I hit the one bump, and they all implode, and I lose everything, I probably could have if I had diversified the eggs into multiple baskets that implode, I would have had, if I had 10 baskets, then the chances of all 10 of them imploding, if it was a 10% chance, is really low.
I'm trying to picture how a basket implodes, but anyway,
well,
I just picture it falling through the bottom, just snap, and everything smashes together.
I'm actually envisioning the bag, the basket actually literally imploding. But the term, I'm being smart. Obviously, everybody knows the term. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. And again, certain industries have never understood this. On some, and Moon and I have worked in some really crap stuff before, where it's like you look at somebody and you're like, you fool, what are you doing? Like, do you not know how to count? Basic math. Do you not know how to do basic math? To see what you're doing is probably going to result in a terrible outcome. And the response typically is, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. How will it be fine? And so this is one of these things here. So
would it have been that much harder for them to, instead of nerfing everybody, adding more challenges?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
That's what they should have done.
If they beat the super boss way faster than you expected, add a super duper boss.
Exactly.
Say, oh, there's another one of these guys over here, but he got struck by lightning and now he has epic like uber powers, and I'm being silly. Yeah, but when you've written your characters so strong that they've defeated Ultron in one very short battle, then the next thing you do is you introduce a Thanos. I mean, that's just how writing works. Like, and again, it's their fault for having allowed this to begin with, because they didn't do a proper enough testing, which I don't understand how. Well, I mean, I do. As we know, game developers are not good at their own games that they create. Very few of them can play through their hard mode games. I remember, most people remember this. Actually, Ash, you and I, this goes way back, right? So Bungie came out with the first Halo, and playing Halo 1 on easy difficulty was like playing against toddlers. Oh yeah.
It was basically just it's like not just toddlers, but Smurf toddlers. Meaning that there was a lot of like red with tiny little bits of blue in it. It was a massacre on an epic proportion. Their hard mode, what did we do? We beat that in like 6 hours on like opening day? I think it was about 6 hours on opening day. We just like destroyed that game mode. And they were shocked. I remember reading articles that they were shocked at how fast people had finished it on hard, on like their hardest mode in Halo 1. And the difficulty in Halo 1 on their hardest mode to Halo 3, I think it was, on that hardest mode was like, it was an incredible jump. Like it was a huge jump. In 1, you could one-shot most enemies with a melee strike. So it just became a game about like just jump around them,
get close enough to do the melee. Yeah, but then
just do the dash.
Now, I mean, we're going back to an era where, I mean, it was.
Yeah, I mean, gaming.
Halo was pretty revolutionary when it first came out.
But, yes.
But I mean, your point stands. Yeah. So I guess the question is why. Why were they not prepared for this? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Couple more thoughts from our chat here. So, Notional says, am I the only one getting sick of bloaty, time sink, grindy looter shooters? Well, it felt like Outriders was going to be something different, but this makes me wonder, could it have been something from Square Enix? Did the publisher come to the dev and say, hey, you got to nerf this down because people are blasting through this too fast and we want to keep them playing for longer, arbitrarily lengthening the game?
No, this in particular boils down to just bad preparation design of believing or thinking that your content was going to be enough for a certain thing or perspective, and then assuming that would carry all the way through.
Atomic Stew says, the question is, does this make it a flash in the pan game that come next month no one will be playing it anymore?
So in Wolson's case, and again, I'm using. There was a couple. I got into a fight with a couple Twitter idiots who would say things like, like this is the end of the world, but really what you see here is that no, this is quite possibly the end of their world. And I don't say that happy. I'm not dancing on their grave. I said before numerous times, I try not to do that because it's very unhealthy for you as a person. But just in general, like I try not to do that. And I'm not happy that these guys have shot themselves in the foot, but they really, really have shot themselves in the foot here. And the primary thing that they've done by doing this, the primary shooting themselves in the foot experience here is they have robbed themselves of the goodwill of the players. And Wolson did this, in which they came out, they did this thing, they refused to back down, and 99% of the players said, fine, I'd rather play something else. And then Wolson Dev said, well, I mean, you can go ahead and try. And then everybody's like, yeah, watch me. And then they left in mass. That game had one of the highest tank of player bases I have ever seen. Like WildStar was probably the only other comparable one where it was like we saw the patch come out. We went to do the raid that night that the patch came out, and everybody except for one person in a raid of 40 said, I'm done. This game, they clearly don't know what they're doing. They have just made the content harder. They made it so that I have to re-roll, completely. I have to re-roll. I just spent 3 weeks getting my character up to this level, preparing them to engage in these challenges, did all of the farming. I love the game, but now they're telling me that I can't play my character the way that I want to play it. I can't play it in the spec that I want to play it, and that I just have to re-roll. Too bad for you. That was their response. And again, this isn't the first time a company has done something so stupid that they said, oh, well, it doesn't matter, we're fine. And usually what this is there's one developer in the studio who he's way too full of himself. He knows absolutely everything. He has absolutely no capability of saying, I was wrong here. There's zero self-awareness whatsoever. And he's sitting there going, I'm still right here. I feel that I have the blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you don't. No, what are you doing? And he's like, no, it's fine. I can do this. I know what I'm doing. And he basically buries the studio. It typically is that. Sometimes it's a person in high leadership. Sometimes it's a balanced person who goes into the office with the boss and says, no, you got to listen to me. I know what's right here, and I'm telling you this is the only way that we can do this. This is how everything is going to come together. Just trust me, boss, trust me. And the fool trusts the fool trusts him. And then he loses his studio. Again, I have seen this far too many times. And this is real examples. Firefall. There's another one for you. Exact same one. Idiot in the company is like, oh no, boss, I know what I'm doing. You have to trust me. I know exactly what the audience wants. They don't want to feel strong or powerful. They want microtransactions. That wasn't what happened in that case. But it's the same level of stupidity. It's like, no. I'm not willing to listen and engage with the community. And as far as some people think that we're complaining about this overly, the forums and the Reddit and Twitter are destroying them right now. Their communities went from, oh yeah, guys, we really support you, we're behind you, to what are you doing? Stop this right now. Stop. And they didn't. Or they aren't, or they haven't. They did another patch notes yesterday. Didn't mention a thing about this about the controversy. And again, it's not about certain classes. Like if they just went in and provided buffs at the same time as they provided nerfs, that would be something. But that's not what we got. What we got was straight out nerfs, everybody being told, no, what you're doing is wrong, and we're going to stop this from happening right now. And then...
And we're also talking about a product that people paid for a decent amount of coin and wanted to invest some time into for entertainment and fun, and then they kind of just had their fun crushed because they were having fun wrong. What was that? That quote from Sheldon from the Big Bang Theory. I love that. That show sucked from like season 5 onward, but there's some good Sheldon quips, and where he decides to host a party with his own friends while all of the other characters from the show are having their own thing somewhere else, and eventually he leaves and joins his friends because the people that he was having a party with were having fun wrong. So
yes.
Anyway, you are listening.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. I think we've talked that to death. I mean, there's one other thing I'll get to in a second here, but you are listening to the Augmented Reality Podcast. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for being so active in the live chat. All of you who are here with us live, if you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community, and you can find the link to that in the description below. By the way, somebody alerted me that there was a problem with the Discord link in the description. Should be fixed now, so that if you click on that, and it doesn't work for whatever reason, I mean, you can find the link is also on the main page of our main channel, the Triple S League. But anyway, as Moon mentioned earlier, it's a place where you can chat with us and other Triple S community members about all the things we love to talk about. It's the Triple S Legion, as they have dubbed themselves. So, and it's a really fun place. We love it there. All right, so Kisuke agrees with you that they absolutely needed both nerfs and buffs. But I also found this article about, this is from Forbes, today. Outriders' new patch has made the inventory wipe bug worse. So they just can't win, it seems.
And again, this boils down to, you have people doing something that, sure, is important. Balance is important, and at some point, you want to make sure that the game is balanced. We're asking for buffs for classes and specs that are underutilized right now, and this is what heat mapping in game development. This is why heat mapping is such a great thing, and this is why it's such a great thing in the case of like Larian Studios, because Larian Studios, very small article, they were having a talk about this. They're saying, look, we're taking this really slow. We are going through the heat maps. We're discovering what people are doing. We want to make the experiences that people have when playing the game be great. And in order to do that, we have to go over carefully and see what they are doing, what they are making, what they are building, and then turn around and engage them on the levels that they are currently experiencing the game on. And we need to do that in order to make the game a success. And I'm like, I'm cheering from the rooftops here, because this is what a lot of the game failures of the last year, this is what the vast majority of them failed to do. The vast majority of them completely failed to understand their community from a very deep level. What were people looking for? What did people want? What are people engaged with? How are they engaged with our products? These are questions that you have to ask constantly. And if you're not asking them, you're doing it wrong. If you're not engaging with the players to see what they're actually interested in playing your game and why, again, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly. If you have people playing WoW, and every now and then they gather a large group of naked gnomes to just go running across the countryside, what do you do as a game developer then? Well, you have two options. You could nerf the game so that gnomes can't gather, because that's not how the game was meant to be played. Or you could, host a monthly running of the gnomes or something like that. I know I'm not describing that entirely accurately, but that's obviously, that's the thing that happened in in World of Warcraft, the running of the gnomes, right? If people are playing a game in an unexpected way, but they're having fun with it and enjoying what you've created, even if it's in a way that's not expected, why not just run with that? Why not? Yeah. Pun not intended, but yeah, good catch there, Moon. Yeah, it's pretty silly.
Yeah, no, it seems like, they don't quite understand the whole engagement sort of characteristic of the whole experience, because like especially with like technology these days and being able to do like updates and whatnot, like you'd think they want to do something that brings people together to their game more instead of giving them a reason to be like, I'm just going to drop this until you figure it out or not, whatever the case may be,
Yes, absolutely. All right, well, I think that's all there really is to say about Outriders at the moment. I don't know.
I would say so as far as the game goes, we didn't play it at all yesterday. We were so frustrated and annoyed, and this morning we played it a little bit. We got even more upset. We stopped playing it for a couple hours. We took a break, and then went and did some stuff, and then we came back and we started again to try and approach it from a little bit of a new angle. And we started to have, again, a little bit more fun, and that comes with the fact that the server patches had finally come on, and it was finally easy. Well, not easy, but it was finally like, it wasn't like pulling teeth to just play together, which was the biggest issue that we were having, is that we just couldn't play together. I would join Polly's would join me, and the lag and the delay. Then we'd have other members try to join, and they'd crash every time. Just to give you an example, yesterday playing with some community members, Kisuke again in the evening, Kisuke and Polly's, and we're playing, and they crashed about a grand total of about 8 times. That in the span of 3 hours was better than almost all of our other attempts at trying to play together by a significant margin. Crashing once every 40 minutes was an
improvement. Wow.
That was an improvement. So it was bad. And again, the fact that they can't prioritize fixing that stuff over top of giving nerfs out is utterly ludicrous to me from a game developer stance.
Ludicrous. Loot-shooticrous. All right, moving on then.
I'm like, I don't know where to go with that.
Well, let's go from there to talking about Hideo Kojima. That makes sense. Speaking of things, there's a segue for you. Speaking of stuff, let's talk about Hideo Kojima. So, Kojima Productions is reportedly working on a new game, but it is not abandoned for PlayStation 5. This was something people were speculating about, that this game abandoned that was recently revealed. People were speculating this was Hideo Kojima's new project. Apparently it is not, or it just really doesn't make a lot of sense for that to be his new project. But there is some interesting news, according to Jeff Grubb from VentureBeat. Now, that he doesn't really say here where he gets his information from on this, but apparently Kojima is in talks with Microsoft about publishing his next game, which is very interesting. So he seems to be leaving PlayStation behind for greener pastures, bluer pastures.
Yeah, so there's a lot of people who are like, oh, is this real? I can 100% guarantee you, with my vast network of spies and information, that yes, Microsoft would love to publish Kojima games.
Well, I mean, I'm sure anyone could guess that. But
right? It's one of those. It's one of those. And this is actually the 2 stories today we have about a well, duh moment. I don't know what nicer way or kinder way of saying it. It's like, well, duh. Like,
Well, okay, fair enough.
Did a 5-year-old point this out to you? Like, really? Like, wow.
But he actually says Kojima is in talks with Microsoft.
Yes.
Like that's more of a specific...
which is a little bit different. However, it is just pointing out that some people are like, I don't know if I believe that. And as somebody who actually came out with a story, and I'm so shocked that we never got much like props or feedback from this. We were the first official YouTube channel and outlet that said Kojima is bringing his game to the PC. He wants it on more platforms, period. I said that 2 years before it was almost 2.5. It was almost 3 years before that game came out. And people laughed really hard at me saying, that's ridiculous. It's obviously never going to come to PC. You stupid person, you. How dare you blah, 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 blah. It was really, really funny because I guess who got the last laugh. But yeah, no, this is one of those things that it's pretty obvious that, of course, both parties would like this. If you could, as a game creator or as say you're a novelist, do you want your book to be sold in 5 stores or in 15 stores? Which would you prefer? In the vast majority of cases, even if those 5 stores are promising that they're going to increase what they sell the book and they're going to give you an extra 10 to 15% profit, you know that by going to 15 stores, you're going to sell literally 200% more copies than just selling at 5 stores. It's just basic common knowledge. So it is kind of funny.
I mean, if the corner book cottage gave me $1 million exclusivity deal, maybe. No, just kidding. But yeah.
Well, no, I mean
exactly.
That's true, but that's not what they're getting there.
Yeah,
I
know.
They're. I mean, and this is what I've been saying for a long time. Sony is like, Microsoft is beating Sony right now. Not in the hard numbers, but in the long game. They have secured the biggest, like the Xbox Game Pass gives you almost everything for one fee.
Oh, hands down, Microsoft has upped their appeal to the point where if I was going to make the switch to console other than a Switch, again, what's with the accidental puns today? If I was gonna, go from being a PC and Switch gamer to getting one of the other 2 consoles, it like there's not even a question. It would be Xbox. It's not. It wouldn't even. I would spend exactly 0 seconds deliberating it because Microsoft has they've upped the value so much, and those exclusives that Sony offers just aren't worth it anymore.
Like in terms of choices offered, I like the Xbox one much better, especially with like somebody was mentioning it in the chat earlier. What was it? Atomic Stew was mentioning they had the Xbox Game Pass. So it's like they mentioned, my problem is online co-ops. I see people enjoying them, but by the time I get around to playing them, I'm like the John Travolta meme with no one I know playing it. And that's no loss because like you've got the Game Pass, so it's just like, oh, you can try it, and then if you don't like it, you can move on because there's more.
Exactly. We were talking about how demos should come back, and I think they should. Yes. But again, if you have something like Game Pass, you don't even need to try the demo. You just try the game, and if you don't like it, you find something else. Yes, Sony's gonna have a hard time competing with that. Now, granted, that's my opinion. As that's what I would do. I'm sure there are some who would.
Some people value being able to play games that nobody else can, and that's okay.
Well, and even just like Sony's exclusives are typically really good.
Right? So it's just like,
there is that. It's not
Tsushima recently, and I was just like, I really wish I could play this, but I don't have like a PlayStation set up, so I can't. And so like I enjoy watching other people play it or hear them talk about it.
Which game? It cut off there. Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost of
Yes.
Tsushima. Yes. Okay.
I really want to play that. I was watching a swordplay thing, like real life swordplay comparison. Oh, so cool.
Cool. Well,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah. So not to say that there isn't any value there, but if you want variety, then yeah.
I
If you
like
want
the
flexibility, Xbox is the choice. But anyway, I mean, I still prefer PC
Yeah.
over everything.
Yeah.
And again,
Kisuke says, I value owning my games. I mean, good luck with that. They
Yeah.
could just
right.
everything is. You buy a physical copy of a game, you're still just downloading it anyway. So I don't even know what the point is. You're either downloading the game or you're downloading a 60 gigabyte patch day one that the game is unplayable without. And so if they just decide to turn that off, then yeah, you're screwed.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of problems within, like, this, but it's good to see that these rumors are, again, this rumor in particular, I would put considerable stock into it, because it is rather obvious that this is a goal of Microsoft. They would love it, and we already know that Kojima wants his game in more places. He wants it to be easier to access, be more accessible, I should say. He wants it to be more accessible to more people, period. And kudos, because of course, as an artist, you want that. I would rather, more people see my art, read my art, and enjoy my art than not. And sometimes that means that you're willing to take a financial hit on that if you can make that happen. And I mean, I certainly would, and a lot of other people would. And Kojima is one of them, where he creates art for the sake of creating art. This is why I was always on his side in the Kojima versus Konami thing, because it was clear that Konami had walked away from art in general. They had just walked away from it. It didn't serve their financial aspirations, and being a pure art form. That's why they went to pachinko machines, which I don't care how or in what way you try to argue it. A pachinko machine is never, ever, ever, ever art. Go blankety blank yourself. It's just not. Period. Gambling machines are not art unless they're in a museum behind a plexiglass wall. Like, can you tell I don't like gambling?
Yeah, fair enough. But another clue to this is that there was a statue on Phil Spencer's shelf that was referencing a potential deal with Kojima. I believe we can see it in this picture. So it's...
how very interesting.
And Phil Spencer, I mean, he's got a history of doing this. Phil Spencer has a history of doing this kind of thing, having something hidden in his space wherever he's filming, his latest thingamajig that gives hints to something that's upcoming. He's got a Switch on there too. Interesting. Microsoft is buying Nintendo, confirmed. There's a Nintendo Switch on Phil Spencer's shelf. Okay. Of course,
no, I think in that case, it's just him showcasing that he supports Nintendo. I mean, again, I have my serious complaints with Nintendo. They do some really dumb decisions that really make me ask why. Why are you doing this? It makes no sense. Don't you know how much money you can make if you just did something different?
Yeah. I like Nintendo too. I do. Their business practices do make me shake my head, but I do like Nintendo's content. Speaking of big game corporations doing things, the Epic Games Store lost $181 million and $273 million in 2019 and 2020, respectively. They're actually operating at a loss, and the loss is growing. Now, I'll be honest, I'm not surprised by this. I figured they were. They are they are just handing out $100,000 checks like bubblegum, it seems. I don't know what those exclusivity deals are costing them. but they
It's a
are
lot.
they're taking a huge hit to try and establish themselves. So I'm not really surprised by this, but still, that's a staggering amount of money that they're losing on the Epic Games Store.
Literally burning.
And none of it was spent putting in a shopping cart.
Yeah.
There's still no shopping cart.
Still no
But
shopping cart.
this is insane. I mean, we're talking close to $500 million over 2 years that they lost, or that, I mean, alternately you could look at it as that they invested in the Epic Games Store. I mean, it's operating at a loss now. A lot of this isn't. I mean, YouTube is doing this too. YouTube is also operating at a loss. I don't know that it's really paying off for them, but.
Well, it is because they keep crushing all of their competitors, and they crush their competitors because they go to those advertisers and say, "Hey, we can advertise your content at 1/10 the price that you're paying this other place here, and yeah, you could come all down here and do this." And it's one of those scenarios that, I mean, again, we don't want to get too political, but this is why the railway companies were broken up, is because they were so powerful that just by like going to a certain place, go and say, "How much are your town willing to kiss my foot here? Because if you kiss my foot, I might bring this here train right through your town. And if you don't, I will make sure that nobody ever knows your town exists, let alone comes here."
Yeah.
I'm really doing a Western thing here today. But still, it was that level of disgusting threats and disgusting control. And then once they did develop dominance in Sector 1, you know, the prices on their stuff would just skyrocket. And if you didn't want to pay it, well, how are you going to go anywhere?
Yeah.
Like that, I mean, you think about it, it's such a villainous thing to do, right? To just walk in and say any of those things. It's like, "Oh, nice town you got here. Be a pity if nobody could ever find it. Oh, you're afraid of me? Oh dear, whatever shall I do? I guess I'll have to, stop bathing in your fear and drinking your tears." It's like, wow. So yeah.
So
corporate overlords, it's just great.
Ali asks, could this investment pay off in the long run? I think that's what they're banking on.
Yeah.
And could it? I mean, maybe. It's hard to say. But they are continuing to grow, and I was disappointed. Of course, I decided to tune into a Markiplier video, as I occasionally still watch him, and he is now partnered with the Epic Games Store. And I was like, are you serious, dude? Sell out. Anyway.
That is sad. That is very sad.
So there's a Last of Us remake reportedly in development. Days Gone sequel canceled, but Last of Us remake that is in the hands of Naughty Dog, but there's more to this story, isn't there, Saib?
Yeah, there's way more to this. So apparently there was a small studio in Sony that was working at trying to become competitive when it came to stuff. They were a trauma team. They would go into studios that were having issues. They would help them brush up their games and get the game out the door. They were a very small, tight-knit group that was doing really well. They wanted to expand. They wanted to show that they could handle doing bigger, more cooler projects. So they were given the green light to start working on, in some capacity, they were given the green light to work on a project without very much funding. So it was basically like a passion project on the side, to start working on a remaster of the original game. And they started this. They started doing it. They got called in to help with Last of Us 2. And I guess somebody said something, because the next thing they know, their project is being moved because a certain somebody at the head of a certain studio heard that they were working on this, and basically decided, nah, that's what I'm gonna do next. So then they took over the thing, and by doing so, basically ruined this what was the formation of a studio. Essentially, was a small formation of a studio. Basically, just put them on rails and got them run out of town. And lots of railway references today. But yeah, this basically killed them, killed their studio, killed their opportunity, and yeah, I mean, I don't want to call it's total scumbag something that is maybe too harsh.
I'd say yeah. Gentle way to put it, I suppose. Sony Bend, the Oregon-based developer responsible for 2019's Days Gone, pitched a sequel to its games, but was denied by Sony, and then the studio was tasked with developing a new game in the Uncharted series, but reportedly asked to be removed from the project over fears of being absorbed into Naughty Dog. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So,
just goes to show that that Naughty Dog is just basically a cancerous thing now. I mean, the fact that 80% of the devs that worked on Last of Us 1 are no longer working at the studio. At the time of releasing Last of Us 2, that is frightful. There is always turnover. There's always a good time for people to move on from a project, but to have the majority of your team move on from a project, oof. Before you even finish the next project, oof.
Mm-hmm.
For them to have had to have hired Hollywood video. What's the? They hired a bunch of people from Hollywood to work on the game, doing things that they weren't even good at because they had burned through so many people in the game industry that there just wasn't. They just weren't getting applications for jobs. Period. And everybody knows that if you're new, do not go and work at Naughty Dog. If you want to get burnout, if you want to be treated like garbage, if you want to have a certain somebody come by your desk and talk to you for hours on end on how smart and how beautiful and how just amazing they are. And they've written probably the greatest story ever told, even though they didn't actually write it. It was a certain Amy had done most of the writing for these games, but had gotten basically shoved out in front of a train themselves. Yeah. Totally their brilliant, most beautiful work ever, because they're so much better than you. Than all of us, really. Like we should all just be in awe at the greatness that is this egomaniac. Is that the correct term?
Something like that. Yeah, takes one to know one. Just kidding. So anyway, you wanted to talk about this game again, Hot Wheels Unleashed, which your fascination with this game is somewhat surprising to me. But anyway.
Well, I mean, it's true. I don't play a lot of racing games, but I've got to say that I am very impressed and very happy with the showcase that they showed off on Thursday, I believe it was. Very good. I mean, just really solid. So, and again, I may not even pick this up, but I'm certainly going to encourage racing car fans and anybody who's a fan of Hot Wheels. This took me back to my childhood so quickly. So, first of all, there's so the racing car game is built within small rooms. So like a garage, a bedroom, an
it's
attic,
Hot Wheels
that kind
scale.
of thing.
It's like you're actually racing Hot Wheels cars in it.
Yes, exactly. And so they have the Hot Wheels tracks. They have the environments that are, or the environmental track type things are very similar to what you would typically buy. I remember seeing this. I remember growing up with this stuff, and it is true to form. So are the cars. The cars are not a scaled up version of their. No, it's they put these cars into a scanner, essentially scanned them and then blew them up and then put them into the game. They you can actually see the mold lines that you would see on the exact same car if you took a microscope to it. You can actually see the way that it's built. So yes, there's obviously some digital tweaks as far as like being able to like let the wheels spin and move, and there's some fire coming out of the engines and that kind of stuff. So there's that. But these things, they don't look like cars that you would see on a racetrack or in any kind of like big fancy racing car game. What you're seeing and what you're experiencing is quite literally a miniature, like the actual Hot Wheels cars, the actual Hot Wheels cars. That's what you're seeing. And it looks, you are literally playing with Hot Wheels cars, and I love this. I applaud them. I hope this game does very well. Again, I haven't been into racing car games for a very long time. The really fast ones do tend to cause me a little bit of motion sickness, so it is something that I tend to avoid. But they're coming out with 60 cars at launch. They're going to come out with 6 environments, a track editor. Car customization is definitely on the table, so paints and possibly like a mix and match thing is something that they're looking at. They are looking at crossplay. No promises on that right now. Crossplay is actually quite difficult to do for certain engines. For certain engines, it's really hard to do. For other engines, it's a little bit easier. The Epic engine is Unreal. It is easier to do crossplay. Ooh, excuse me, but it is a lot harder to do. It's a lot harder to do that on other engines, or if you just don't have the technical prowess that this very small studio does. This is a fairly small studio making this. It's not a super huge studio.
There's a question from the chat that I really want to read. This is from Atomic Stew. But does it have a DLC where you get chased by a younger sibling around the house trying to hit them with a piece of track?
Yeah,
very good question.
Yeah, I may or may not have been one of those youths that was spanked by Hot Wheels tracks at some point in the past.
Wow, they must be pretty sturdy. I never had my own Hot Wheels track. I think I had some of the cars at some point, but my question is, Demolition Derby? Yes, no. That was that was the ultimate game that my brother and I, of course, would play because he had dozens of these things. I don't know if they were Hot Wheels, but he had dozens of the little mini cars. Demolition Derbies. That was the game. Set them all up in the living room. You just fling the cars at your opponent's cars, try to flip them, and last person standing wins.
I just cringe. I cringe from like just the wrecking of these models and the chipping of the cars, and it physically hurts. And Ren asks, Saib, did you watch Thomas the Tank Engine this morning too? Ha ha, Ren. Ha ha. Joke's on you. I already watched the whole series. No, I'm kidding. It's one of these things where it's like, again, it really does take me back to my childhood, like my early childhood. I spent many years in the hospital when I was young, and one of the first memories that I have was my brother who was in there. He, a friend of the family came, and he had been in the hospital with me and my parents for so long that he was feeling kind of like cramped, and so this lady friend of mom's got him a car, as a little Hot Wheels car, as a gift. And I remember, like, I probably was like 2 or 3, probably 2, I think, because it was like I was hospitalized pretty much for the first essentially 3 years of my life. But I remember laying in bed, looking over and going, why don't I get something? I'm in the bed. I was like, one of my first thoughts was like, what? Where's my thing? Well, I'm just gonna have to survive, and I did so against many odds. So yeah, this game is. I wish it all the success. They are still in pre-alpha. They are releasing this year, supposedly. This is not too much of a complex game. They already have a very decent working version of it that they actually sent out to some content creators. I say kudos. I say good for them, and I hope more games take the perspective of taking something and then just keeping it simple. Keeping it simple, making things cool, and giving as many options to the players as they can. And that's what they're hoping to do. By the way, they're also hoping at some point to open up every single Hot Wheels car ever made. That is their wish, but that is a
lot of research into this. Well, you should email them, Saib, tell them your hospital story, and see if you can get an early copy of the game.
Like I said, I don't know how much I play this game, but the one concern that I have is that the way that they are talking about games, the way that they're talking about doing these cars and having rare cars and stuff like that, I do have like a little bit of a hint of a worry that they might do microtransactions. There was no mention of it whatsoever. I just am a little worried that that's what they might do.
Well, that's not exactly a top marketing strategy.
Microtransactions for per car, like per the specialty cars, I'm more or less okay with that. I would draw the line hard at it being a random draw or something like that. Like please don't bring that.
Well, I would say don't put a pay to win in. Like if you offer some skins, offer some cool skins.
Yeah, pay for skins.
Or some aesthetics. But yeah.
They made it clear that if there is a particular car that's not if you're playing against, so one of the things that they mentioned was that every car should be you should be able to beat the AI with every car that's in the game. So
right, but when you're playing,
there's not a power scale to the cars, and every car handles a little differently than every other car, has different like bonuses and stuff like that, but every car is viable for you to play as.
Sure, but I'm just saying if there's like, I don't know, if there's one locked behind a paywall that's really good and you're playing online.
I don't think it would be that. I think it would literally be like, the special, shark car from the 1995, the collector's edition of some other car that they teamed up with when they introduced the Camaro or something like that. Stuff like that. I mean,
fair enough.
That's what I would fear. I don't think that they make I don't think they'd make the gameplay be reliant on power cars. I just think that for collectors wanting to collect, the Camaro, I don't think that would be good. So that's just that is an unfounded. I have no. There was nothing that they said that it directly indicated that. I just worry that they may be tempted to do that, and I would highly encourage them. Please don't. Please don't. Please don't. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, on Wednesday we teased a topic that we're going to delve into a little bit now. We shouldn't take too long. We're already an hour and a quarter into the show, but let's talk about video game movies. And let's talk about what makes a good video game movie versus what makes a bad video game movie. There's been many really bad ones. There's been some good ones. Especially more recently, there's definitely been some good ones. And we'll talk about what the difference is and what makes them good or bad. Moon, do you have a favorite video game movie?
Gotta
think about it.
Like the first ones I've seen, because like if I were to be honest, like the first video game movie that I've seen was that one with the real life Mario, and like I remember the boots and the Goombas, and like
that you talk like the really old Super Mario movie. Yeah, that wasn't even. That is an abomination that should never be named. I mean, that was just what even was that? It was ridiculous.
Then there's The Wizard. Even though it wasn't a video game movie, it was a movie about video games. Probably actually one of the better ones on that list.
Well, that's I mean, yeah, there's movies about video games that are, I mean, it's kind of a different category. I mean, I think what we're talking about here is like movies that are based on a video game IP, or that where an IP makes a transition from game to movie. And there's some really, really bad ones they've got here. Now, this is Rotten Tomatoes, which is not a site that I really like anymore, but it's useful for this purpose here. So Alone in the Dark is sitting at 1%. Mortal Kombat Annihilation, 2%. House of the Dead, 3%. I've never even heard of this one. In the Name of the King, a Dungeon Siege Tale, 4%. Blood Rain, 4%. Street Fighter Legend of Chun-Li. Postal. Oh, they've got these out of order. They got Postal at 9%, and then Hitman Agent 47 going down to 8%. So I wonder where the other Hitman movie lands on this one. But let's see what they think are good movies. Oh, the top one is 73%. The Angry Birds movie 2. And then they've got Detective Pikachu at 67%. I'm surprised that it's sitting only at 67%. Same with Sonic, only 63%. These are the only...
Yeah, well, those games were disliked. Or those games had... wait, what reviews are you looking at? Are you looking at the viewer reviews? Or the this movie was very good, but I really didn't like the way that Mr. Daniel played the primary role. He should have done so with more angst.
Oh yeah, those are the critics' reviews, because Sonic has 93%.
Yes,
so
exactly.
So actually, I wonder. I'm curious here. Let's go to Alone in the Dark has. Oh, yes, the audience score is much, much higher. 11%. 11%. There we go. So, yeah. Clearly, it's a much better movie than these critics give it credit for.
Okay.
It's like 10 times as good.
Doesn't work all the time, but it's more of a recent phenomenon than anything. Yeah. But no, overall, I'd say that... shoot, it's not Miley Kunis. It's Mila
Kunis?
Jovovich,
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil 8. So she basically said why game movies are not as good, rights and character control. So in a lot of these movies before, if it was directly, most of them weren't connected directly to the actual lore of the game. They were inspirations or reimaginings, like the guy who did the Super Mario one. It's like, it's not a story about Mario. It's a story about somebody who looks a little bit like Mario, is maybe named Mario, but comes from a universe that is totally not even remotely connected with that. These Hollywoodists types, they see these movies and they immediately translate those movies into some like Hollywood version in their head, which has of course actors and sets and special effects, and they don't see the Mario universe like we see the Mario universe, which is in the Mario universe with the Mario things, and the colors and the art style and all of that stuff is happening in that universe. And this is why there's a lot of games that have a difficulty switching from 2D over to 3D. It's because some people viewed those games as 2D. They didn't see them as a 3D experience. They saw them only as a 2D experience for certain fans. And so this is really what you get when you're doing these movies, that you get the you get the creation of these things, which are licenses to create, but not to change and not to impact the story. And once you allow them to actually integrate this properly, and I think we see this with The Witcher, whereas we don't see this with Resident Evil. Resident Evil is not allowed to kill off characters. because they don't control that part of the universe, which is really good, because honestly, the way that they write and the way that they were so quick to just kill off certain characters and then to bring them back willy-nilly, or to have them die off again, or to bring them back again, or to any of this stuff, it's so wild and crazy. And it's just like, you know, there's some movie people, and I would say that this definitely is the same category for Resident Evil. They're like, oh, hey, cool, we want to try doing this really cool death scene. Who wants to do it? And the actors are like, oh yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, kill my character off, because they didn't assume that it would be a series, right? They just wanted the extra screen time, or they wanted the special effects thing, because they knew that if they got in, there's certain people whose careers have been launched by being the central target of a cool effects thing. And if you can do that, and if you do that well, then everybody's going to love you, and everybody's going to want to follow that, and everybody's going to want this, and everybody's going to want that. And it's like that concept is really, really cool. It's very unique and is very deep, but it just doesn't flow that same way, right? Mm-hmm. And so without doing that, without creating that, or giving that license of creation to create and edit the characters, you just don't get something that's that good. Or if you do, the danger then is that you put it in the hands of somebody who's like, I really think that Mario wouldn't have saved the princess. I think he would have gone on a journey of self-discovery and walked away and said, no, I have to discover myself before I can save the princess.
Well,
but
don't they get, like, you look at the Mario Brothers movie, it's significantly edited. Everything
edited, but not the same way. Like, and the Mario one, I mean, that's a kind of a bad example, because it's one of the really, really old ones. You got to look at more like the mid-generation ones, the ones that have come up more recently that have done just really, really poorly, because they didn't have the right to, like, change the characters at will. And again, I would say it's like the Resident Evil movies are okay-ish for an action movie. They're great as an action movie, actually, but they are completely devoid of any of the lore and logic within the universe of the, well, in most cases, they're actually devoid of the actual logic. It's so funny to me. Like, they're in the prison, and the prison walls are holding out against the undead. It's like, unless, of course, those undead burrowed underground, in which case they're, your foundational walls are more reinforced than your exterior upper walls, but yet somehow a normal zombie was able to tunnel through 8 feet of concrete and steel rebar. I don't quite get how that works, but beggars can't be choosers, I guess.
Yeah.
But in that sense, that world is a lot less flexible than within the lore. It doesn't have that same flexibility, but it doesn't need it, because it's not really their selling point. Their selling point is action and cool things and explosions and having people at least appear in the same armor and clothing as some of the other characters. They do a good job of, like, making characters look like the characters from the movies. Like, they do a pretty darn decent job of that. But that's about where the similarity ends, because the storyline just goes sideways so quickly.
Right.
I think that's really what it is. But yeah,
I think there's, I think that's definitely part of it. And then I also like Max Darrett's opinion here in the chat that video game movies are bad because they don't beef up the narrative to fit the movie medium. And I agree. Like, what works in a game doesn't always work in a movie. And you do have to write it to be a movie, while at the same time keeping true to the spirit of the game and the feeling of the game, which is not an easy thing to do, I would imagine. Super Mario Bros. Like, you're just looking at that cover. It's like, what the hell is that? That's not even, yeah. But I also have to question why, I mean, even if they don't keep true to the IP, can't you at least make a good movie? Like, yeah, anyway. So, yeah, and I don't know. The
an attempt
Angelina
was made.
Jolie Tomb Raiders, I never really saw her as Lara Croft. Anyway, sorry, what were you saying, Moon?
Oh no, I was just saying an attempt was made. Mistakes were made.
An attempt was made.
Because it's like, well, at the same time, it's like with some of the stuff coming out not quite being like as good as we would hope. Like, at least people are trying to make stuff. You know, that's what I hope to see more of. Is just like people just trying to make stuff. Because like I don't like that there's people who are like trying to strangle a thing so much because they're so desperate to own it or possess it to such a degree. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just creativity needs kind of the freedom to breathe and to be able to add ingredients to see what happens. Otherwise, you just get stuff that just doesn't last.
Mm-hmm. If we look at the more successful video game movies that have come out recently, though, I noticed three. You look at these three here. I noticed three similarities. One, they're either animated or the main character is animated. But
right?
two of the more successful ones. So Sonic the Hedgehog and Detective Pikachu, both an animated character superimposed on live action. And I wonder, like, that's just an interesting similarity. I have to wonder if that's just a formula that works better. I
like it because it touches both the crowd that enjoys live action stuff and the crowd that enjoys animated or digital stuff, and kind of brings it all together into a new world where it's almost like, we're breaching dimensions, right? It's like when Pokemon Go first came out, people were absolutely blown away because you could see the real life size of your little creatures superimposed in your camera. And so, like, I think it's kind of like that kind of novelty of being able to picture, like, stuff that you've seen on a screen in a real life sort of situation and watch a story that makes sense to go along with it, right?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So
Atomic Stew says, "Pong the movie." Oh
yeah.
my gosh, can you imagine? You could make it like this, like an ultra tournament thing with like lots of drama and like rivalry and like all kinds of shenanigans. Like there's potential in that.
Ali Mafu says there's a Tetris movie in the pipelines. You know what? If they can make a movie about the emojis, they can make a movie about anything.
Right? Just gotta try, really, because if you don't try, you really don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying they can make a good movie about anything, but they can make a movie about anything.
Practice makes perfect. Or as close as you can get to it, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Pong the movie. The animated the main character is an animated white rectangle,
right?
Struggling in a human world.
Just working like some blue collar job.
Droblet says you forget both Sonic and Pikachu movies are made for little kids. Well, they sure, yes, they are. I mean, they're made for a broad audience. Like they weren't made for. Yes, they weren't made for adults specifically, but
for everybody.
But really, like you look at what happened. Sonic was almost a catastrophe with their original design for the character.
Oh my gosh, I was absolutely horrified when I first saw it. I was like, no, wrong way. Too far.
Yeah. It was like, what was that abomination of a creature? That's not Sonic. That's like, it's like taking Yoshi and turning him into a velociraptor or something, or whatever the crap they did in that stupid Mario movie.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't even recognize it.
But they course corrected, and of course they made it. So instead of trying to make him look too real, they made him look like Sonic, and that made it better.
Right.
So yeah, it's good that there's some better video game movies coming out these days, and we'll see. Maybe it'll start to, I mean, video games are such a big thing now too that I wonder if it's becoming less of a just trying to cash in. Like, I wonder if these movies are less cash grab and that people are respecting the art and the essence of the gaming IPs. Maybe the gaming IPs are getting more respect than they were back in the 90s. So
this is true. This
Yeah.
is true. That and with all like the tabletop and like D&D type stuff that I've been seeing, like a lot of like Jameez was talking about, what was that Critical Role or yeah, I really enjoy listening to those. Oh my goodness, the shenanigans that they get up to. And like even like some other YouTube players, I was listening to a different group. They're playing Among Us, and they're like using the proximity audio chat. And oh my goodness, it was hilarious. Not only that, like one of the participants, like she actually sketched like an animation of their characters running around with like their audio. Oh my goodness, it was great. So it's like I would love to see more stuff like that with like, you know, just like stories that people can relate to, and also is like can see the humor in, share the humor in, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, and that just made me think. I'm calling it now. There's going to be an Among Us movie.
I hope so.
Calling it now.
I think there's a good chance that there. I mean, I think there are a few concepts that are similar to it, but yeah, I know there's somebody did a high quality animation. It was a 3-parter. Of the Among Us story, and they did really good. Like they did a really, really, really good job. And it's about 15 minutes in total, I think, if you like line it all up. But super high quality. It looks super awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. But I imagine it won't be that. It'll be a full CG animated movie. And they'll either bring the Among Us guys in as animated characters, or it'll just be a full animated movie. All right. Well, I think that's about it for the show for today. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for all of the interaction in the live chat. If you haven't yet, please do slam that like button. We really appreciate that. It tells the YouTube algorithm that you appreciate this content, and it tells us and just warms our hearts. So thank you so much for that. And so yeah, don't forget to slam the like button before you leave. And thank you, special thanks to all our Patreon supporters and channel members and Twitch subscribers who help to make this content possible. Really appreciate all of you. You see their names appearing in gold throughout the podcast on the top of the screen. And those folks are pretty active on our Discord as well. Check them out. They're awesome people. So come on down to the Discord. Come on down and have some fun. This is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel. This is our Triple S Podcasts channel, our main channel, the Triple S League. You can find game guides, reviews, and comedy. And tons of other gaming content. We are, just kind of reevaluating where we're at with a lot of things, and that's why we started this new channel for the podcasts and news. But we are continuing, like that's still our active main channel, posting more comedy stuff on there, and there's plans for a lot more of that to come. So check it out. Subscribe to both if you haven't already. This is Ash. On behalf of Saib and Moontag, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll see you on Wednesday for the next live show. Take care, everybody. We'll talk to you again very soon.